Imagine you're building your house and you're really in the beginning stages of all of this, and all of a sudden your neighbor comes over and he goes over and talks to the construction workers. He doesn't talk to you. He talks to construction workers and he says, you got to stop building this, and you got to stop building this now. And that's all he says. Well, they're thrown into confusion. They have no idea what's going on. And then your neighbor finally comes and talks to you. Your neighbor basically says, I don't want your house built. I don't want you here. You need to find another place to live. And he's adamant about it, absolutely on fire about it. And you're going, no, I'm going to move here. This is where my house is. This is where my family has lived in this community for generations. I'm not moving from this spot. And you and your neighbor are starting to get into a war over all of this. Well, imagine about 2,900, 3,000 years ago, this same war taking place. But this time, it's not between two individual neighbors, it's between two nations. The nation of Israel, who had been in captivity in Babylon, have been allowed to go home. It's been 70 years since their captivity, 70 years because of their unfaith, their disbelief, and their stubbornness that God sent them over to Babylon. For 70 years, they lived in exile. And now, under Nehemiah's leadership, they're able to go home. And go home they went. And they found Jerusalem in rubbles, in ruins, burnt and destroyed and fallen over. Despairing, but yet resolved. They are resolved. We are going to rebuild our city. We are going to rebuild our temple. We are going to reoccupy our city. And they begin the construction process. They're all resolved. They've all done in there, and they've done their huddle, and they're ready to go, and they're up and running, and all of a sudden their neighbors, the Horonites and the Ammonites, raise an unholy stink. You can't rebuild this city. This city was destroyed. You don't want to be here. We don't want you here. Sufferings and struggles because you are in a location. I cannot imagine being Jewish because they've been dealing with that for thousands of years. People around them not wanting them to be there, trying to eradicate them at every turn. Even in today's society, the Jewish people are still under persecution. They're still under threat. They've got Hezbollah, they've got ISIS, they've got the Palestinian Liberation Organization. Now there's a term from the past. But they've got everybody around them looking to get rid of them. Now let's go back to our opening example. What if somebody in your neighborhood didn't want you there? And the sufferings and the struggles that you face trying to stay in your home, but nobody wants you there. What are you going to do? How are you going to live? What's the issues at hand that your neighbors are not facing? Don't know sometimes. And many times we as Christians, in our own communities, in our own neighborhoods, when people find out that we are Christians, they will make our lives miserable. And you know what? That's okay. Yeah, our lives are maybe full of grief and sorrow. But as we look to our ancestors, the Jewish people, the originators of the Christian church, if you will, the promises, the pledges of God to be a holy nation, a people unto himself, promises that we now have inherited from God because we believe in Jesus Christ and what Jesus Christ has done for us. that gives us strength, that gives us determination. And in spite of persecution, sufferings, and struggles that people throw upon us, we're here. The church is here. God's people are here. It is time, in spite of it, and maybe even because of it, to stand out and to stand up as Christian people and to build God's church. Let's think about that, pray about that, let's act upon it. Let's pray. Father in heaven, we give you thanks and praise for all of your blessings. Yes, being your people can be a struggle. Being your chosen ones, your holy nation, can be a nightmare sometimes of all the harassment and the persecution. Father, just give us your strength, your mercy, your peace to not only endure the struggles that we face, but to overcome them and to continue to build your church, your people, those who believe in Jesus Christ and bring the world to you. We ask you to be with us, and we ask this all in the name of your Son, Jesus. And all God's children say,